Hi, welcome into SoundSense. I'm the Mike in michaelbearvoice.com. You've likely heard the expression, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em. And in this context, as a voiceover talent, them refers to the growing legion of AI voices out there in the market, and the equally expanding roster of companies who are boldly crashing off into the future in that field. It's been pretty clear for some time that AI intrudes into our daily lives more and more, and the pace of that change seems to quicken daily. It can be subtle, it can be creeping, it can be incremental, until one day you wake up and you see the forest and not the trees. Oh my, how did that happen? When that happens, and if that happens, you might well be out of a job. In my community, the great fear was, and I suppose still is that AI is coming to take all of our jobs. Certainly in the lower echelon of voiceover work, which is where a lot of us live. IVR, corporate presentations and communications, e-learning, that sort of thing. It has to be said that AI voices do get better and better, but they're not quite there all the way yet in terms of taking away the work in the higher end stuff like commercial voiceover broadcast and that sort of thing. But the question really is, for how long, right? So in the midst of all this noise and clamor, I began to hear voices of reason, calm voices of assurance who were saying, all is not lost. Yes, AI is coming, but perhaps there are opportunities to embrace it, right? AI needs human input. Why can't that human input be yours, right? So as I was mulling this over, not really sure how to proceed, there were lots of opportunities, and there are opportunities out there in the marketplace to record AI. But for companies who really want you to sign away your rights, right? They'll give you a what looks to be a very attractive upfront lump sum payment. You record your thing, you take the money, and off they go with your voice. And you've signed away your rights to your voice, which is perhaps one of the most fundamental and distinctive things about you that make you you. It's very personal. Around the same time, I had come across a post from a fellow Canadian voice actor named Bev Standing. Now, Bev is very well known in the voiceover community, and she's now more widely known as a result of a lawsuit that she instigated against social media giant TikTok, who had been using her voice without A, her knowledge, B, her consent, and C, certainly without compensation. She had done a TTS, or a text-to-speech project, for another company. Somehow that voice print wound up with TikTok, who was using it in their app. And so she successfully sued TikTok.
As a business person, though,
When she
one of the
announced
things
that
I
she
did
had
was
debuted
look
her
into AI
voice
a little
dub
more and
with a company
find
called
out
Vocal
what kinds
ID,
of possibilities
I
that
was
are
intrigued.
going to
I
provide
hustled
a
off to their
revenue stream
website,
for me down the road.
drafting
After
on
all, I'm
Bev. As a competitive cyclist might put it, I was drafting on Bev, thinking, wow, if Bev's okay with this, there has to be something here, so I'll look into it. And look into it I did. I made contact. I was invited to a webinar, an informational webinar, and subsequently signed on. And all of this happened in the matter of days. It was very, very quick. One of the things that I really liked about it was that the CEO, Rupal Patel, started this company and developed this software from an impulse that was other than strictly commercial. I think the origin story goes that she had wondered why it was that a 65-year-old man and a 12-year-old girl were communicating with the same voice on their devices. Think Stephen Hawking. And so she resolved to change that, and change that she did. And it's only recently that Vocal ID is entering the more commercial arena with professional voice talents making voice dubs. But fundamentally, the difference is I'm not selling my voice. I'm licensing my voice to Vocal ID. Any project that is done has to come through me. I approve it. I accept the terms. I accept the compensation, et cetera, et cetera. There are things I don't have to do if I don't. It could be a political thing, whatever it happens to be, or tobacco, or firearms, or whatever it is that you don't want to endorse. You don't have to do it. Basically, I'm licensing my voice, which is the fundamental difference, and more than happy to do so. Having signed on, I then had to record just over 3,000 sentences, which is a lot across a variety of scripts in e-learning, I think, and IVR and PSAs and that sort of thing. That's a tall order, 3,000 sentences. It took me many, many days. I would record for an hour here, an hour there, and it took many, many days. The recording process itself was odd, to say the least. It was fractured. It was staccato. It was a very strange process because you had to record sometimes single words, sometimes a couple of words, sometimes longer sentences, but essentially all of these scripts being broken into sentences, and you had to go through them and read them one at a time. But you had to approve these sentences. And so I would have to record a sentence, I would stop, click stop, I would play that back, I'd make sure it's okay, I would click stop, I would click advance, I would click record, I would check that one, I would click play. So there was a lot of, click record, click stop, click play, advance, click record, click stop, click play, click advance. And when I say click, I don't mean click. We had to try and keep it quiet on a keyboard very delicately. But nevertheless, that process was rather fractured. So I would play a sentence back, I would listen to it and try and mimic it, and then very quickly turn into the next sentence and record that to try and maintain tone, rhythm, pacing, everything, right? It was a challenge. I found it a real challenge. At the end of all of it, and certainly by module, one would have to go in and approve all of the things that you had recorded. Welcome to the lead portfolio manager for the emerging. And if you had found a sentence that you did not like, it was difficult, if not impossible, to actually go back and re-record it. You could do so, I think, but it would add to the total number of sentences. So it was easier to record, approve as I went, and then I would go in at the end, and I would simply bulk. I would do a sort of a spot check, but I would bulk approve all of the sentences I did in that hour.
Investments in foreign currencies and foreign issuers are subject to additional risks.
It did take me a while. I did get through all 3,000, and I approved all 3,000. 3,000 and a couple of extras, I think, because I had gone back in and recorded a few. And the reason I approved them all is because I had listened to them and checked them as I went. Your mileage may vary, because as it turns out, in a conversation with Rupal Patel after the fact, they do expect a certain amount of breakage, as it were. They do expect that a certain amount of or a certain number of these sentences will be rejected. The anticipation being that you would go through them in a very fluid bang, 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 bang manner in order to not break the rhythm. I was careful with my rhythm, but nevertheless, it could have been easier for me had I not been quite so careful. So this is why I had 100% acceptance rate, when in fact they do expect that a percentage, I don't know what that percentage is in terms of breakage, in terms of rejected sentences, but nevertheless they do, and if they need to, they would simply add more copies. So I could have made it easier on myself, but I do tend to take the hard road sometimes, unnecessarily, but I do eventually get there to the destination. And that destination is my voice dub. So as I speak, the computers at Vocal ID are churning away to produce my buttery voice dub. When that does happen, I will be very intrigued, very interested to pop along and perhaps do an A/B comparison, a side-by-side on a piece of copy, myself and my digital twin, my digital doppelganger. And when that does happen, I'll post it. I think it might prove really, really, well, it'll be odd for me, but it might be interesting as well. But until then, this is the real me, bidding you farewell. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Sound Sense.